Welcome to another episode of Routes Through Pokemon Adventures. We are your hosts, Sherlock.
I'm Ruby.
And today we are continuing our adventure through the Orange Islands and the Yellow Manga. We are a father-daughter team venturing through the mainline series of Pokemon, probably hitting some of the side ones like Colosseum and stuff along the way, and traveling along the anime and Pokemon Adventures manga. So far, we have concluded Red and Blue, and with our Orange Islands adventure, we have wrapped up Pokemon 2000, The Power of One, and it's short. And we've already done Charizard Chills prior to that, even though it was aired afterwards, because plot-wise it seemed to fit there. So now this week we will be covering only 3 episodes of the anime, which are the Pokemon Water War, Pokemon Food Fight, and Pokemon Double Trouble. And then we will be covering the rest of Volume 6 of the manga, which we started 2 episodes ago, but we only had covered 3 chapters, so we have a whole bunch to get through this week. And we will be jumping in right away. Alright, so let us start with the Pokemon Water War. Once again, we're visiting another island, and they just show, like, they start the episode with, instead of sailing on Lapras, they're just on the docks having Lapras return. And ideas are suggested about doing things there, but all Ash wants is food. And
Of course.
Of course. And Pikachu seems to be on board with this idea.
Mm-hmm.
But then they find that there is a building on fire. Misty is determined to help, and Ash joins as well. So Misty uses Staryu, and Ash brings out Squirtle.
Staryu? She used Staryu. Decided to come out, so.
Yeah.
At least it's that.
He was probably too scared of the fire. But unfortunately, the 2 water Pokemon just aren't quite enough. Then a part of the building is going to collapse on them. But before it can, they are rescued by a squad of Wartortle.
So instead of the Turtle Squad, it's the Wartortle Squad.
And they are commanded by whistles from somebody, like somebody blows on a whistle to get them to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And they work together to put out the fire, this squad of Wartortle, and they work very well that way. Like, they're very highly trained in teamwork.
Yeah.
Ash's Squirtle and the lead Wartortle, who wears a bandana around his neck so that we can, keep track of him, seem to have an issue with one another. And so then afterwards, the gang is taken to the place where the Squirtles and Wartortles train, because they have Squirtles there too. And they also have Blastoise, apparently.
They're probably for the largest fires ever.
Yeah, that's explained a little bit later by the guy that works with them all. But I really like the Wartortles here, because they're marching around the track or whatever, the field.
Yeah.
And they're just saying Wartortle, but they're doing it in like a cadence, like an army cadence, like when you're marching.
Oh, yeah. Like, how exactly?
Wartortle, Tortle, Tor, or something like that,
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and so yeah, when they're introduced to Team Blastoise after that, they learn that that team is used to take on huge fires, while Team Squirtle are used for putting out fires in really small, tight places that nobody else can get to because they're the smallest.
So they're like, I just want to point out, they're still very important. Like, whether they're used for large fires, they are still very important because the fire would get huge and out of
and
control.
cause a lot more damage. Yeah, when Blastoise team is in there, that means there's a fire that's already caused a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So yes, they are very important still. Meanwhile, Wartortle Squad are somewhere in the middle, being a little bit, obviously more powerful than the Squirtle, not the Blastoise, but definitely smaller than the Blastoise.
Yeah, they're powerful than Blastoise. Just to think.
And then we find out that Squirtle, Ash's Squirtle, his pride is hurt. So we learn that Ash's Squirtle's pride is hurt because way back in the Squirtle Squad episode, what did the Squirtle Squad end up doing? They ended up helping put out a fire. Yeah, something got out of control there. And so he took some pride in the ability to, take these things out. That was a big deal for him. And now he couldn't do this one, and this Wartortle took care of it instead. So his ego is a little bruised. So it seems like Squirtle wants to face off against Wartortle, and so Ash tries to get the captain of the Squirtle, Wartortle, Blastoise squads to agree, but he's reluctant. But finally, when they see that Wartortle and Squirtle really want to do this, the captain relinquishes, but instead of a battle, they are doing challenges. And the first one is a race on the track. And of course, it's about this point where Team Rocket shows up, and they're spying on them and want to snatch up the Pokemon, because of course they're these well-trained Squirtles, so they must be special, right? Or Wartortle.
I mean, they are kind of special, but
They always just they don't realize that if they just spent some time training Pokemon themselves, they would be just as special.
they need to go out in the wild, catch some decent Pokemon, like Squirtles or something, train them really good, and then go give those to the boss. That would take less time than it takes for them to capture
It'd be a
Pokemon.
lot easier than constantly trying to steal Pokemon from these other people.
Because they're
Silly
so
Team Rocket.
bad at it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were like expert at stealing and then you like just came in and took everything, well, I guess it'd be easier. But for them, it'd be easier to just train them.
And if you've seen the movie, you realize that this shows us that Team Rocket is just back to being Team Rocket. They got to be good guys, but now they're back to being bad guys. And that's bad.
Yeah.
So, while they're spying on them, Wartortle and Squirtle go for a race. But there's a rock on the course, and Squirtle slips up and tumbles and crashes into Wartortle, so they both roll across the finish line in a tie. And Tracy says they set a new land record, because that was the fastest any Squirtle or Wartortle had crossed the ground on land. Seems like that shouldn't count.
Yeah.
So then the two battle in a competition at hitting discs flying in the air. And it's not just them. The whole rest of the Team Wartortle are trying to do it too. So they shoot discs in the air, kind of like what the first challenge was with the gyms.
Yeah. Like the water gym challenge, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a water gym challenge. I guess hers were all water-based stuff.
Oh. Just a gym challenge.
It was just, they don't really, like, they're technically not themed gyms.
Yeah.
At least not by type, although hers was all water-based.
So it is technically a water type gym.
Yeah, there's for sure. It makes me wonder how far they planned these gyms and how many they planned, because we didn't learn that there was only 4 until he already got 2 badges, and it was a few episodes after that, I think.
I'm pretty sure we learned at the very beginning.
That there was only 4? No, I'm pretty sure we didn't.
Maybe not. Maybe you're right.
That they had to go battle gyms, and I don't even think they probably even planned that it was going to not be gym battles like normal until shortly before they got there, and I don't think they planned out how they were all going to work, because they made that one kind of water themed, but they didn't do themes for the rest. And then we ended up with an actual battling gym, and spoilers, but the last episode is another gym, and that's also a battling gym.
Well, maybe you're right and we didn't know at the beginning, but I thought that it was said, and then when he got 2 badges, they like repeated it or whatever, and I thought you were like surprised by the fact that there was only 4, but we're all like, didn't they say that before?
No, it wasn't even when he got the second badge. It was later on, like an episode or 2 later, where he's like, "Oh, you're halfway there." Like, it was finally at that point where the show decided, okay, we're only gonna do 4 gyms for this because we're gonna get ready for Johto. Like, this was all just like, it seems to me this whole season is more like, let's just keep doing things that as we buy time till we can finally do Johto once Silver and Gold is coming out. That's what it feels like. Not that it's bad. There's some good stuff. It's just,
I'm gonna double check on when it was revealed, because you could definitely be right, but I just want to know.
I'm always right. But because Wartortle and Squirtle are working so hard to compete against each other, it's actually causing the rest of Team Wartortle to work harder as well, which makes the captain happy. This is actually like a benefit to having them do this. But then we have a weird situation where they're supposed to wrap up, but a disc flies off and it has an antenna attached to it, and it's not flying like the rest of them are.
I have a feeling this has something to do with Team Rocket.
It does, Team Rocket. Bunch of bozos. So, of course, the Wartortle squad and Squirtle all rush after it, and they end up falling into a huge pit outside of the gate, which, of course, belongs to Team Rocket.
Wait.
And they fly their balloon out of the pit with a net full of Wartortle and Ash's Squirtle.
Are you sure it was probably Team Rocket? I think it was probably Ash and Co. who dug the pit, that they put Team Rocket's balloon in there, and then they put Team Rocket there so that all the Squirtles could be captured. And Wartortles.
Sure.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Just think about it.
So, and then Pikachu is also captured, and once again he's put in a glass case, so he can't shock him, and he keeps lighting up the light bulb. I don't know why they keep putting light bulbs up there, but then after, and like Team Rocket gets away with all this, but when they're at their newest hideout with these Pokemon, they discuss that they should keep one of them, Pokemon, since they got so many of them, instead of giving them all to the boss, because that just seems wasteful.
Does it though? You keep failing, so it'd probably be good payment.
And they're all kind of disagreeing on who gets to have it, I think. But Jesse ends up using a form of Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. But instead of saying Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, it's something like Eevee, Mankey, Hitmonlee, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
And Team Rocket argues a bunch more over who should get to keep one of the Wartortle. Oh, maybe that's what she wasn't doing Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo for them. She was doing Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo of which Wartortle she should get to keep. And then they argue.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, then they're all arguing who gets to be the one who actually gets to keep one. Meanwhile, the gang uses Venonat to try to locate Team Wartortle.
Venonat, not the bug Pokemon.
The non-bug Pokemon, Venonat. Yes, Tracy's Venonat must also be special because he's not a bug type, while being a bug type. So then Officer Jenny calls while they're off trying to do this, and it turns out there is a really bad fire. One for Team Blastoise. But unfortunately, there's an overturned truck blocking Team Blastoise, so they can't even get in there. Team Squirtle is there, getting in there, but it isn't enough because, they're not as powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So Missy decides to go help, and Tracy sends Scyther and Meryl with her to help her out, which is good, because, granted Scyther would be weak against fire, but he keeps having this whirlwind thing, so that might, the sword dance thing.
Oh, that would help maybe fix the truck or something.
Yeah, something. But then Meryl, of course, being a water Pokemon, having extra water power would be good. So, Tracy's doing some good stuff there. And so Misty runs off with those, while Tracy and Ash and the captain, I think, continue to look for Team Wartortle. But while they're doing that, Squirtle and Team Wartortle decide to flood the cabin where they're being held and escape.
Nice.
And then the gang shows up to help finish off Team Rocket. A flood of water guns at Team Rocket, and then Pikachu's Thunderbolt sends them blasting off again. Ding.
But they used their water gun, and then Pikachu electrified them, so it was even worse of an electrification.
Exactly. And then everyone shows up to help fight the fire with Misty. There's a kid trapped in the building, and so Squirtle and Wartortle, the Wartortle leader, shoot off of a Blastoise who finally gets in there to go rescue the kid. Like, they get, launch themselves up as cannons. Yeah, I thought that was fun. So yeah, they shoot off and go to rescue the kid, and they have to fight fire on the way down, and they have to save one another from collapsing floors and whatnot until Wartortle and Squirtle escape with the kid, and now they're friends.
So it was mainly about Squirtle and Wartortle.
Yeah, and fighting fire.
Yeah.
And this is all about beating up on fire, so this is definitely an episode we couldn't have Rosella on, or fire, because they would be so upset.
I thought you were just saying, this episode is beating up on fire, so, having fire on here.
So then the next episode is Pokemon Food Fight. A storm has the gang stuck on an island for a week, but while they might starve, the Pokemon won't, because there are a bunch of great flowers for Pokemon on that island. And because, of course, Ash and them have no food, and they're hungry again. Then they meet a kid who is wearing flowers in his hair, and because they thought it was just flowers laying there, they were going to go feed the Pokemon, but then he
that's right. There were special flowers around that were really good for Pokemon. I remember that.
And this kid is obnoxious.
No kidding. He's
I
the
do not like
worst.
This character at all. Ash gets roped into a battle with this kid who claims he's the best grass Pokemon trainer.
And, the way he got him to battle was so obnoxious.
It really was. It's just so dumb. He brings out Gloom, and somehow Ash doesn't know Gloom, so he uses Pokedex, despite, the Gloom episode where they had a fake leaf stone, or the Gloom episode where he rushed into a burning building and rescued Gloom.
Well, so when the episodes were aired, I only know this because you've told me this before, but when they were aired, if you missed one, maybe you didn't know about Gloom. So they had to do it every single time he met Gloom.
Yeah.
And just pretend Ash is super stupid.
They designed it so that if you only watch, they figure people watched only one out of every 3 episodes, so they needed to make sure there was repeated information. And like, I mean, I get it. It's just funny when he has to use his thing and acts like he doesn't know a Pokemon that he's had some severe interactions with.
Yeah. Rushing into the burning building and saving Gloom.
Yeah.
Oh, who's this Gloom?
Yeah, that was a very, like, crazy episode, because that was also where he dressed up as Ashley and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Pokedex says that Gloom is strong against water and weak to flying and fire. So Ash decides to do a very smart thing, because he has a flying fire Pokemon, and so he goes to send out Charizard. Only instead he ends up sending out Squirtle, because he gets his Pokeballs mixed up. And then he switches out for Charizard and gets Snorlax instead, because he still doesn't understand his own Pokeballs. This whole battle was just annoying, because I'm like, what are you doing, Ash? And then the Pokeball gets broken, so he can't return Snorlax, who tries to eat Gloom, which makes the kid upset.
I think he also tries to eat the kid.
Well, yeah, but he also does eat the kid's lunch. So he's very angry.
The
And
kid
he's
deserved
like,
it.
And so the battle never even finishes. He's like, nope, I'm out of here. Good luck. Oh, and yeah, so then they need to find a Pokemon Center to fix the Pokeball. And the kid tells them it's a couple of miles away over that mountain. And he's laughing at them, and I'm like, shut up. So they have to try to drag Snorlax there. Tracy decides to use his last apple as bait to get Snorlax to chase him, but Snorlax eats it. So instead, they dress Ash as an apple.
So, like, speaking of dressing up like Ashley, no, he's an apple.
Yeah.
Both begin with an A.
And they make it to the Pokemon Center. Like, it works. And then they meet the kid again there. And there's a big line, or like a crowd outside the doors, too. Because they're all looking for Pokemon food, because they're all out. Because the most recent shipment that's supposed to come to the island is late. But Joy announces it's on its way, and just as she does, the crate is dropped with a parachute, and Team Rocket intercepts.
Oh,
And
Team
Meowth has
Rocket.
Meowth has his own Iron Man type armor that he's using, though instead of looking like Iron Man, he looks kind of like an egg. So they want the cargo, and Team Rocket agrees to hand it over if Ash hands over Pikachu.
I knew it was coming. They're like, we'll hand it over if, and I'm like, they're gonna ask for Pikachu. They're just
Yep.
gonna ask for it.
And the crowd actually starts to think about it. So then the kid actually does something nice and smart, or like, not smart necessarily, but just, I guess, and gets in the way of the crowd and gives them a bunch of crap for wanting to hand over Pikachu. And so then we end up with a battle against Mech Meowth and Ash, and whoever wins gets the food. And wouldn't you know it, the Iron Meowth is immune to electric attacks. So Pikachu can't win.
But the annoying thing is, I think he was immune because he used his tail to ground himself.
Yeah, well, the mechanical tail or something grounded it, yeah.
Bellsprout is like the most grounded. Or no, not Bellsprout.
Bellsprout also grounded itself,
Yeah.
which is why the electric attacks did work against Bellsprout. Because Bellsprout is king.
King, you say. King. I'm gonna punch you.
But yes, he grounds himself, so it doesn't
Ground
work.
Pokemon are automatically grounded, so what the heck?
Right? They're never allowed to leave their rooms. Anyway, so Pikachu can't win, but then Snorlax shows up, and he looks mad.
That's because he wants the food.
Snorlax dodges all the attacks from Meowth, and then Meowth is sent flying into Snorlax's belly. He aims his belly and shoots Meowth back at Team Rocket. Then he uses Hyper Beam, and Team Rocket is blasting off again! Ding! Snorlax and Ash run toward one another with open arms, because Snorlax was so great, only Ash was going for the hug, while Snorlax actually was just going for the crate of food. And opens it, starts eating. Joy fixes the Pokeball, and so Ash can return Snorlax, and that's pretty much that episode.
At least there
Not
was
my
some
favorite.
food left for the rest of the Pokemon.
I didn't like the kid, which really detracted from the episode. Iron Meowth was an interesting thing, I guess, but the only thing I really liked about the episode, although the whole Apple fiasco was kind of funny, was Snorlax, like him being super like mad and determined, and then kicking Meowth's butt, and the way he when Meowth sunk into his gut, and then he just turned and launched him.
Snorlax
This is funny.
was fun. Snorlax was funny and fun.
Yep.
Everything else wasn't all that great.
Yep.
Even Iron Meowth was kind of like, you're just kind of lame.
And then we get Pokemon Double Trouble. So they reach the island that has the last of the Orange League gym trainers. They're finally going to get the last one, which means they can move on to like the championship stuff, whatever that looks like. Which again, the way it's been described at points, I don't think like it seems to suggest one thing, but once we get there, it seems to be another thing. So again, I don't think it was all planned out.
Mm-hmm.
Misty and Tracy are excited for the nice hotels. They want to stay somewhere nice. And somehow they have no confidence in Ash winning the last badge. And I had to wonder why. Because he's won all 3 of the other ones.
Right.
And he managed to win some of the 8. I say some of, because some of them were just kind of given to him from Kanto. You know?
Yeah, like...
Plus, he won the first 4 matches of the Indigo League. To be able to get into the Indigo Plateau arena.
Mm-hmm.
Gary didn't. Mandy the Magician didn't.
But, like, why don't they have any confidence in him? It's just stupid.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But anyway, there's a woman who's advertising for her hotel, and then she thinks she sees her son and rushes over and grabs Ash and goes on and on about her love for her child. Even up close, she thinks he is her son, Travis. And Travis dressed a little different, but he does look like Ash, and he also has a Pikachu, we learned, with like a little flashback when he's on a boat. Then, while that confusion is being dealt with, out of the ocean emerges a giant mechanical Rhydon, controlled by
None other than Team Rocket!
The robot is environmentally friendly because it's powered by Pokemon.
Okay.
So instead of using like gas and stuff. And we find out that Arbok and Lickitung are running on treadmills to like generate the movement and power for it.
Arbok would need a pretty wide one because like snakes would like move like almost.
Yeah, well, whatever. It's a cartoon. He doesn't have to move like that.
How is he? Is he jumping?
I don't remember. I really don't remember.
Soul body.
And then they open the mouth of the robot to unleash Hyper Beam, which is supposed to be coming from the wheezing that's inside there. Only, apparently, James was supposed to teach him Hyper Beam, and he's never gotten around to it. So instead, Wheezing uses Smog Attack, like normal.
That's hilarious. That part is hilarious.
And then we have that confused lady who was advertising a hotel and thought Ash was her son. She brings out Alakazam and warns Team Rocket to get out. When Ash tries to tell her to let them let him and Misty and them take care of it because she doesn't know who she's dealing with and how dangerous they can be.
How dangerous they can be.
The lady tells them that an Orange League gym trainer should be able to handle it. So now we realize we've met our last gym leader for the Orange League, which will be Ash's future opponent then. So then Ash uses Charizard to help deal with Team Rocket, and Tracy seems surprised that Charizard is listening to Ash. But we had that whole Charizard chills thing, you know?
And that was even aired before this episode, so...
Yes. I think it makes some sense, though, because whether it was aired before or not, at the end of that episode, Charizard tried to burn them. During the movie, he gets a little out of control at points, right? So, like... And then when Ash tried to bring out Charizard in the last episode, Charizard didn't come out. Granted, it was because of the wrong ball, but one might think it's just because he doesn't want to listen.
Yeah.
So, I could see why he might be a little surprised. Because they're not quite used to seeing Charizard, like, doing things normally. Anyway, so... But yes, Charizard is listening, because he has been doing a pretty good job since Charizard chills. So Ash... Okay, so yeah, with Charizard and everybody, they deal with Team Rocket. They're kind of there for that beginning of the episode, and then their story's done, so we can move on to the gym stuff. And so Ash challenges the lady to a gym battle, and they find her hotel is where the gym is. So Misty and Tracy are excited because they get to be at the hotel.
I like how you just say the lady.
I don't remember her name.
Me neither. But just...
Yep, the lady. The lady gives a tour, and they find a gym in this gym hotel to train Pokemon. So like it's a regular like almost gymnasium kind of gym where you work out. And then when they reach the stadium portion, you know, the actual gym for battling, the lady suggests their match be a double match where they both will use 2 Pokemon at the same time. Now, This is a feature that does show up in the video games eventually.
Does?
Yeah, you don't know that?
Is it in Let's Go?
Well, it's definitely Let's Go, but it shows up before that even.
Where?
That's just it. I don't know which game it first shows up in. Because, like, we did the twin battle. Oh, no, we didn't. Never mind. Just kidding. But, like, I don't know if it shows up in Gold and Silver or not. I'm pretty sure it's probably around by the time we get to Ruby and Sapphire. Because I'm pretty sure double Pokemon battles were in Leaf Green and Fire Red, which are the remakes of Red and Blue. And those games came out in the same, like, generation as Pokemon Coliseum for the GameCube, where you start with an Umbreon and Espeon, you know?
Yeah.
And you start with 2 Pokemon because I think all the battles in that one are doubles.
That's cool. Get to start with an Umbreon and Espeon.
Yeah, it's so cool. So, it's just interesting because they put it in this episode, but it's not in Red and Blue at all, and I'm not sure where it shows up. So they might have been planning it for Gold and Silver already. We'll find out when we play. Or maybe they weren't planning on it, and they got the idea from doing this here. Just like way later with Sun and Moon seems to take a lot of ideas from Orange Islands.
Yeah, they just thought, hey, it'd be fun to put double match in there.
Yeah. So anyway, they're doing a doubles match. 2-on-2. And, you know, it's also interesting that we once again have a gym battle again. So, like, half the Orange Island gyms were task-oriented, and the other half are battles. Granted, the last one had a trial to pass before you could do the gym battle.
Yeah.
And this match will earn the Jade Star badge. The next day, we get the gym battle, and it turns out the gym leader's Pokemon that's chosen are Alakazam and Marowak versus Ash's... Can anyone guess what Pokemon he might have chosen? Pikachu and Charizard.
Well, I could see choosing Charizard. He's tried it even when Charizard doesn't listen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a while back we were wondering how Pikachu might feel about Charizard, and now we kind of got to learn a little bit about how they work well together or not.
Work well.
Turns out there's more to this kind of battle than Ash might have thought, as his Pokemon need to learn to work together. Because none of his Pokemon do that, right? Like, they just battle. The only time they've worked together is, like, to help block a lava flow and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's not going very well for Pikachu and Charizard at all.
Because they're kind of fighting each other.
Well, they're getting in each other's way, and then they get mad at each other while they're trying to deal with the other ones who are also attacking them, because Alakazam and Marowak know how to work together, because she's trained them to do so.
Yeah.
But, like, throughout the battle, eventually, they start helping each other out, like, one's in a bad position, and so I want to say Pikachu helps Charizard first, but I don't remember.
That would make more sense, because Pikachu's the one like, alright, we have to work together, because Ash wants us to.
Yeah, I think something's happening to Charizard, and so Pikachu, like, hits whoever's hitting Charizard.
Well, I think the lady's like, well, let's just take on one at a time since they're not really working together. So she's like, let's take out Charizard.
Yep. And then Pikachu ends up helping. But then Pikachu gets blasted back, I think, by Alakazam. And we think he's going to be out for the count because he was already pretty weary. But then all of a sudden he lands right in Charizard's wing, who spread it out purposely to catch Pikachu. And that's when they're like, all right, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
And then it's cool to see them, like, work together as a team and do all kinds of cool stuff. And then they win, of course. Ash now has all 4 Orange League gym badges. Now to get the trophy, Ash needs to confront the leader of the Orange Crew. Which now, like, I'm pretty sure earlier on it seemed to suggest that they would fight multiple people in some kind of Orange League, kind of like Indigo. But here, they specify he has to go fight the Orange League leader, which sounds like maybe he just has to fight one person then.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually kind of closer to more like how the Indigo League works in the games. You battle the specific people, and you end up having to battle your rival too because he beat them first, so he's the best now. He's the top. And that's how the Orange League thing kind of seems to work.
Yeah.
There's the top person, so now Ash needs to beat that person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then I think they also mentioned that having the badges also qualifies him to battle other qualified trainers, which I think might have been what they said earlier in an episode, which suggested that there was going to be like multiple people to battle because of the qualification, right? But now they're changing course here and be like, well, you can now battle other high-ranking people, which includes this leader guy. So anyway, it ends with Team Rocket. The episode ends with Team Rocket trapped in the middle of the ocean. They want help, but they're also afraid of help because if the boss finds out they wrecked the robot, they would be in big trouble. So they're like really stuck because they're like, oh, we could get help. Oh, but we wrecked the robot and the boss might find out. And I think they even see a boat and they almost call for help, but they're like, no, don't let anybody know we're here. Poor Team Rocket.
Poor Team Rocket.
And that is it for our anime this week. And so now it is time for our next collection of yellow Pokedex entries.
Who's that Pokemon?
Ponyta 77, Fire Horse Pokemon. Capable of jumping incredibly high, its hooves and sturdy legs absorb the impact of a hard landing.
Rapidash, number 78. Fire Horse Pokemon. Fire. Just loves to run. If it sees something faster than itself, it will give chase at top speed.
Slowpoke, number 79. Dopey Pokemon. Water and Psychic type. Incredibly slow and sluggish, it is quite content to loll about without worrying about the time.
Slow, bro. Number 80. Hermit Crab Pokemon. Water Psychic. Lives lazily by the sea. If the shelter on its tail comes off, it becomes a Slowpoke again.
It can de-evolve?
It's hilarious.
Magneton, number 82. Magnet Pokemon. Electric type. Generates strange radio signals. It raises the temperature by 3.6 Fahrenheit degrees within 3,300 feet.
Farfetch'd. Number 83. Wild Duck Pokemon. Normal Flying type. Lives where reedy plants grow. They are rarely seen, so it's thought their numbers are decreasing. It says it lives where reedy plants grow. I think in one of the anime episodes, it talked about how there might be a Farfetch'd around here because of the certain plants or forest or something.
Yeah.
Remember that episode?
I do think I remember that, yeah. Doduo, number 84. Twin bird Pokemon. Normal and flying type. Its short wings make flying difficult. Instead, this Pokemon runs at high speed on developed legs.
Dodrio, number 85. Triple bird Pokemon. Normal flying type. One of Doduo's two heads splits to form a unique species. It runs close to 40 miles per hour in prairies.
Seal, number 86. Sea lion Pokemon. Water type. Loves freezing cold conditions. Relishes swimming in a frigid climate of around 14 degrees Fahrenheit.
Dugong, number 87. Sea lion Pokemon. Water ice Pokemon. Its entire body is snowy white. Unharmed by even intense cold, it swims powerfully in icy waters.
Grimer, number 88. Sludge Pokemon. Poison type. Made of hardened sludge, it smells too putrid to touch. Even weeds won't grow in its path.
Muck, number 89. Sludge Pokemon. Poison type. Smells so awful it can cause fainting. Through degeneration, it lost its sense of smell. I love Muck. He's so funny with Professor Oak. But then, he smothered Bellsprout. Yeah.
Shelder, number 90. Bivalve Pokemon. Water type. The shell can withstand any attack. However, when it's open, the tender body is exposed.
Cloyster, number 91. Bivalve Pokemon. Water ice type. For protection, it uses its harder than diamond's shell. It also shoots spikes from the shell.
Ghastly, number 92. Gas Pokemon. Ghost and poison type, if we haven't made that clear. Said to appear in decrepit, deserted buildings. It has no real shape as it appears to be made of a gas.
Also, Ghastly's probably Agatha's least favorite, since she didn't use him in the Elite Four. Haunter, number 93, Gas Pokemon. Ghost poison type. By licking, it saps the victim's life. It causes shaking that won't stop until the victim's demise.
Gengar, number 94, Shadow Pokemon. Ghost and poison type. A Gengar is close by if you feel a sudden chill. It may be trying to lay a curse on you.
Onyx, number 95. Rock snake Pokemon. Rock and ground type. Burrows at high speed in search of food. The tunnels it leaves are used as homes for Diglets.
Drowsy, number 96. Hypnosis Pokemon, Psychic type. If you sleep by it all the time, it will sometimes show you dreams it has eaten in the past. It does have a move called Dream Eater. I think we even get a TM where we can teach some Psychic Pokemon that move. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is one TM I exactly remember where it's at, too. I think it's in Viridian City, which is where the last gym is, but it's one of the first cities we go through. And it's right by the pond, but you have to cut a tree to get to it, so you need the cut move before you can get to it.
Huh.
I don't know why that one sticks in my head, but I think that's where that is.
Hypno, number 97. Hypnosis Pokemon, Psychic type. Avoid eye contact if you come across one. It will try to put you to sleep by using its pendulum.
Ooh, one of my favorite Pokemon. Krabby, number 98. River Crab Pokemon, Water type. Its pincers are superb weapons. They sometimes break off during battle, but they grow back fast.
Kingler, number 99. Pincer Pokemon, Water type. One claw grew massively and as hard as steel. It has 10,000 HP strength. However, it is too heavy.
Voltorb, number 100. Ball Pokemon, Electric. It is said to camouflage itself as a Pokeball. It will self-destruct with very little stimulus.
Electrode, number 101. Ball Pokemon, Electric. Stores electrical energy inside its body. Even the slightest shock could trigger a huge explosion.
And that is this week's Yellow Pokedex entries. All right, and now with those entries out of the way, we will cover our manga chapters. All right, so we will be starting with... So we're on Pokemon Adventures Manga Volume 6, which is the... So there was 3 volumes for Red and Blue's journey, and now we're kind of following this new character, Yellow, for 4 volumes, and this is the second to last volume. And we will be wrapping up Volume 6 this week. But before we dive too far in, I have to warn you, there's some fun twists at the end of this volume. And if you want to avoid spoilers, you have been warned that there will be spoilers. So go away and read it, and then come back. I mean, granted, I didn't warn you about the spoilers for Red and Blue's journey and who won there, but, well, live and learn, I guess.
Also, you know what we're covering, so there will be spoilers. Deal with it.
All right, so Chapter 69, Playing Horsey. So we just finished, like, the first 3 chapters were all about a flashback to how Red got captured and why Pika was all by himself. So Pika wakes up next to Yellow in, I think, some forest or whatever, and Yellow asks if Pika had that dream again. So it seems that Pika was probably dreaming about what had happened to give us that flashback.
And Yellow seems to know that Pika's having a dream again.
Yep. Oh, because we also saw that before we did the flashbacks, I guess at the end of the previous volume, or maybe the beginning of the volume, I don't remember now, Bruno was remembering it as well. So it's kind of like we had Bruno remembering it, but now we're also showing that Pika is remembering it, kind of thing. So then Green chimes in, and we see her and Bill flying down using Green's Jigglypuff. So she just showed up out of nowhere. Green came to help Yellow, and jokes about taking a vacation at the Elite Four's headquarters. Oh, that's right. Yellow's on Cerise Island, so they were sleeping like near the edge of the island, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And now Green and Bill are there to help out. Yellow explains that he and the Pokemon arrived in the afternoon, and the plan was to wait until it got dark to move forward to the base on the island. Green's impressed Yellow has learned some strategy. Bill still has his doubts about Green, but he suspects Green sent Yellow in the mission. But he suspects Green sent Yellow on the mission that Yellow's been on, and that Green also helped during that encounter with Lorelei so long ago, which we know because we saw a shot of Green shooting with Horsey or whatever. Remember when they were being chased by Lorelei?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he thinks Green might be telling the truth that Yellow is... And his thoughts are cut off by Yellow wondering why Bill is traveling with Green. Bill starts to explain, but Green says there is no time, and her Jigglypuff puffs up so they can all ride, and then Green uses Horsey to cause a smoke screen around them so they look like a floating rain cloud as they cross the island. And this reminds me of Winnie the Pooh.
Looks like rain.
Tut tut, looks like rain. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh disguises himself as a rain cloud.
Very well, too, my dad.
Yep. using a balloon instead of a balloon Pokemon. She then uses her binoculars and reveals that there are a bunch of Slowbro between them and the base, so they needed to float along or they'd be fighting every step of the way. It also explains why it is cold on the island. They wonder how to navigate, and Yellow reveals a map that Bill tries to take from Yellow, and so it falls, and a Slowbro finds it and eats it.
Why does Bill try to take it from Yellow?
I don't know, because he was like, oh, I know how to navigate or something. I don't remember. But he did, and it didn't work out. And then the Slowbro wanders off. They figure it might be going to its trainer to tell what happened, and so Green sends Horsey down to latch onto Slowbro's sheltered tail and drop ink along the way.
So,
Which is just like that Eevee evolution episode.
it is, isn't it? But when Horsey attaches to a Pokemon who's attached to a Pokemon, it's just a Pokemon train.
So it should have some kind of weird evolution after that, right? So the rest can wait for a bit and then follow the trail. After a comment from Yellow about hurrying, since the 3 towns are under attack, we cut to Erica dealing with a bunch of Shellder and Celadon City. She uses Tangela to grab a bunch of them and bind them, but it doesn't work. Then we get a shot of Misty using Staryu to spray Gengar and Brock using Geodudes to battle Machops. Then, high in the sky, a swarm of Dragonair fly over mountains toward a smoking city, and I was wondering if it was Celadon, but I didn't know for sure. Yellow, Green, and Bill reach the cave and wonder if Horsey went in. They don't want to rush it, so Green pulls out her Clefable, leaving it in its Pokeball, and Yellow reads its mind to understand what Clefable is hearing, since Clefable apparently has super hearing.
That's probably why, well, I guess it was Clefairy taking things in that one episode. No, not Mount Moon. But it was Clefable, or Clefairy taking a bunch of everyone's stuff in one of those anime episodes.
Clefairy Tales.
Yeah. I was about to say, well, that explains how they knew where the stuff was, because they have super hearing. But maybe it's just Clefable who has super hearing.
Yeah, I don't know. And you remember, like, she used to have a Clefairy, but then Red evolved her Clefairy for her in that battle with the Moonstone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And it's just handy that they could, like, Yellow has this special talent to kind of read Pokemon minds.
Yeah.
So there are voices, and Clefable isn't afraid, so they must be allies. Only, as they get close, they find it is Lieutenant Surge, Sabrina, and Koga, which are not their friends. They are the evil gym leaders with Team Rocket. But they are along with Blaine and Blue, because at the end of last volume, we did see Blaine and Blue sneak into the other side of Cerise Island and run into that gang.
They're just, like, coming in from all sides.
Yep. Then we move on to Chapter 70, Allied by Alakazam.
So that must mean they're allied by Sabrina.
Yes. So Team Rocket reveals that they're there to defeat the Elite Four as well. They slipped out of Sylph Company before it collapsed back during that battle. And then we're rebuilding Team Rocket, which is why we've been seeing some more Team Rocket around. But the cities fell under attack, and they couldn't have the areas they are supposed to control be destroyed, so they showed up to deal with the situation. So they're not heroes, they just don't want the world they want to take over to be destroyed.
They're just selfish.
Yep. So then they have the heroes promise not to get in their way, and they can all work together. Just this once. Blue just doesn't want them to get in his way of dealing with Agatha, who has a grudge against the Oaks, apparently. Other than that, he doesn't care what Team Rocket does. So then Sabrina has Alakazam produce the Spoons of Destiny.
I kind of like that. If we had Spoons of Destiny, that'd be
It is explained that with the mainland attack that the thought was Cerise Island might be light on defenses, but that's not the case, as none of the Elite Four actually had to go to the mainland, so they are all supposed to focus on the fight ahead, and the Spoons of Destiny will pair each of the 8 people into groups of 2 to face off against the Elite Four. There's a really cute image of Pika and Yellow both gripping the spoon and focusing their thoughts on fighting those that Red had fought so they can find Red. Yellow and Blaine are paired, Koga and Blue, and the spoons are all bending towards the other spoons to show who they're supposed to be with.
I was wondering who Yellow would go with, because I'm like, I really hope Yellow doesn't end up with one of the Team Rocket people, because that wouldn't be great for a young kid.
Sabrina and Green are paired. of course, because they're the ones who had that big old battle.
And they don't like each other.
And who was it that Blue fought in the building?
Slime guy.
Koga, which
Yeah,
is who he
slime
was
guy.
paired with.
Exactly, slime guy.
And the fourth pair spoons don't apparently bend. Bill didn't agree to any of this and doesn't want to do it, and so his won't bend, but Lieutenant Surge's also doesn't bend. It is noticed that Sabrina and Green and Blue and Koga both were one another's opponents at Sylph Company, and so Lieutenant Surge thinks that if the pattern holds true, he should be with Red. But since Red ain't around, he grabs Bill and marches off.
He just slings him over his shoulder and marches on.
Yup. Then, as the four groups split up, we follow Koga and Blue. Koga talks, and Blue is silent. Then, Blue offers Koga something that belonged to him, his Golbat. And then we move on to Chapter 71, Muck Raking. Koga explains that his Golbat's supersonic can then project the images it detects into its mouth. They detect an Arbok, and Koga throws a Ninja Star Pokeball, which I thought was a cool concept.
Yeah.
And unleashes his own Arbok. They know they are up against Agatha, and Blue is itching to get in there. Agatha shouts commands from her hiding spot, and then has Arbok cause a rock slide with stalactites up above. When those fall, it separates Blue from Koga and his Arbok. A Gengar then shows up and licks Blue, paralyzing parts of him so he can't see. But Koga's Golbat is with Blue again, and Blue tries to use Golbat's move to get around, but something counters it. Agatha's Golbat.
Come on, Agatha.
Then Agatha faces off against Koga with her Arbok and shows that she can switch the patterns on the fans of the Cobra thing, the Cobra fans on the Arbok.
Which is really cool.
And that her Arbok has different powers depending on the pattern, such as increased speed, and then switching to increased attack power.
I don't like that she can do that, but I still think it's kind of cool.
It is cool. Then Koga is all wrapped up by Agatha's Arbok. And that's pretty much that chapter, because it was mostly all action-y.
Yeah.
So then we move on to chapter 72, Wheezing Winks Out. Agatha is beating Golbat with her Golbat, and Arbok with her Arbok, proving her superiority. Koga tries to body slam with his Arbok, and then Agatha's bites his in 2 pieces. So then he sends out Wheezing and Muck to use poison gas and smog, but Agatha's Arbok takes on an invulnerability pattern to repel the poisons, and then smacks down Wheezing and Muck, which has now defeated 3 of his Pokemon. Meanwhile, Blue is struggling since he can't see. Koga deduces that the damage to Blue's eyes must be bad, and the Golbat is giving more trouble than he thought. Agatha thinks Koga might be through, and then wonders at his odd decision to toss out a bunch of Pokeball Ninja Stars. Then Koga's Arbok regrows its tail, and Koga explains that his Arbok has such a talent and recovered from a far worse wound a while back, which I was guessing it must have been Scyther cutting him down back at the Sylph Company.
Far worse wound? What's worse
Being,
than being...
hit real hard with the Scyther to cut to pieces or something? I don't know.
So, 3 pieces instead 2 pieces.
Or just struck dead or something. I don't know. Let's
Struck
see.
dead? This would kill something!
But Agatha is undeterred and says that Blue is not going to last long, and then she sees the silhouette of her Golbat flying in, and she says, Blue is already defeated, since that Golbat is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But Koga just grins. Then the Golbat flaps at Agatha, and she realizes it isn't her Golbat. And then Golduck and Blue leap over the stalactite wall, and his eyes are open. And then it is explained that he sent little Ekans, like little baby Ekan things, holding paralyzed heals all around the room, hoping one would reach Blue. And it did.
Smart.
Blue wants to take over, but Koga doesn't let him just yet. He has his Golbat leech life from his own arm and spit that blood onto Agatha's Arbok to cover up the patterns so that it can no longer change them or get power from them. I thought this was really interesting because, you have the leech life ability, which sucks life from a Pokemon and heals your Pokemon, right? But instead, he had it suck life from him, but because doing that is also filling its mouth with blood and then just spitting all that blood to cover up a pattern. They come up with some clever things with these things.
Yeah.
Then Agatha sends her Arbok to bind Koga, and Golduck jumps in and uses confusion on her. And then Blue and Golduck deal with a poison sting attack coming from behind. That had really been Agatha's plan. So now Koga and Blue are even on that front. But Blue was still upset that he wasn't allowed to really settle things with Agatha. And so then the pair move on to go deeper into the caves.
So they kind of beat Agatha, kind of are just same where they started.
Yeah. And then we move on to chapter 73, Valiant Venomoth. Green and Sabrina come across a trainer badge on a rocky pedestal. Lorelei says it doesn't concern them and arrives with her cloister. She cuffs Sabrina and Green's wrists together with ice shackles like the one she used on Red a while back in that flashback we saw.
Mm-hmm. Where she made a little ice doll and then put X's on the spots she wanted to cover with ice.
Yes, correct. She reveals that Jinx makes the figures with ice beam, and then she uses lipstick to draw on them. She also tells them she did the same to Red and that they better be careful in attacking, because if the ice dolls shatter, so do Sabrina and Green. She has Cloister shoot an ice beam at the pair, and they both try to run in opposite directions and start yelling at one another. Then Green sends out a Nido, and Sabrina pulls out Venomoth to fight the Cloister with Double Kick and Sleep Powder. But Cloister blows the Sleep Powder at Nido. Sabrina and Green get mad at one another again. So then Jinx pops out like a freak and almost gets them, but one of them shouts a direction to jump, and they manage to dodge the attack. Then Sabrina starts to think that Lorelei's attacks are directed mostly at Green instead of herself. Then Lorelei shows off a bound-up horsey that her Slowbro brought to her, which would be Green's. Mm-hmm. She tells Green to come over to her if she wants Horsey not to get hurt. Sabrina warns that it is a trap, but it doesn't matter, and then Jinx pounds Green into a wall, knocking her out while still cuffed to Sabrina. Sabrina tries to break the ice. Break the ice.
Oh.
And Lorelei says the dolls will be needed, and they're tucked inside Cloister. So Venomoth is sent to collect the dolls, but is failing as Cloister uses Withdraw. But then Sabrina made it look like she was using the same attack one more time, but actually used Mega Drain and knocked Cloister out when it went to withdraw again. Lorelei quickly grabs the ice dolls. Chapter 74. Make way for the Magikarp. Now we catch up with Bill and Lieutenant Surge. The gym leader explains that they were planning to deal with the Elite Four in Vermilion City, and taking over the SS Anne was part of the preparation for that, but Yellow sort of screwed that part of the plan up. They had let a rumor go out that the one that the Elite Four was looking for was in Surge's city, and we saw how that turned out, because last we saw Lance blasting it all apart, apparently looking for whoever he was looking for, remember?
Yep.
Then the pair come to a large pond in the cave, and there is a boulder bridge that they can climb on to get across. It's obvious it isn't just some kind of natural rock formation, so sure enough.
Bruno.
Huh?
I said it must be Bruno.
Yeah. When they get partway across, this bridge moves. Bill falls, but the water isn't deep, and he unleashes Magikarp that splashes him out. He also realizes it isn't water, and both he and Surge notice his shoes and pants have melted a little bit. They realize whatever the liquid actually is, it is a lot like Victory Bell drool, and if they fall into it, that could be the end. Because we learned all about the Victory Bell acidy stuff in the Safari Zone with Red.
Yeah.
A voice agrees that it could be the end, and it is Bruno, and he claims there is no escape from the mucus below, and they need to battle to cross the erratic bridge. That's when it becomes clear that the bridge is
An
Onyx. But Bruno lets them know it isn't his Onyx, so he's at the same disadvantage that Surge is. Both Surge and Bruno are excited for an extreme battle. Then we cut to Yellow, Pika, and Blaine. Pika starts acting weird, and we learn that there's some emotional reader on Red's Pokedex now that can help understand Pika, but Yellow does better without using that device, and couldn't remember how to use the feature anyway, because Yellow just has a talent for reading emotions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out Pika seems on the verge of remembering something really important, and Blaine theorizes that since Pika didn't take Yellow to Mount Moon, it is possible Pika's memory was damaged or scarred like its ear that doesn't seem to heal. Then there is a flash of light, and Blaine and Yellow see a battle going on in a different room of the cave that they have a window into. It's the Bruno, Surge, Bill battle on an Onyx. And what they're looking through is kind of like a magic mirror, so they can see the battle going on, but from the other side, nobody can see them. It just looks like a rock wall.
It's really weird that there's a mirror in a cave.
Yeah, but a rock wall mirror. It's really bizarre. But this is a secret base, too, so maybe they installed it
That's
this way. Bill uses Vulpix and Surge uses Electabuzz, and Bruno jumps around and dodges. Surge is concerned that their fire and electric attacks aren't going to be great against Bruno, as he'll likely be using Earth and Rock. Then Bruno informs them he won't use Onix as he doesn't like easy matches. And then they remember, as he pulls out Machamp, Hitmonchan, and Hitmonlee, that Bruno is also a master of the fighting type.
He didn't pull out Geodude, I noticed.
Nope.
For his fighting type Pokemon.
That's because he doesn't have one in the game.
Oh.
He has Onix and Onix. I think he has 2 Onixes, yeah?
Yeah.
And then Machamp, Hitmonlee, and Hitmonchan. Alright, and then we get to Chapter 75, Electrode's Big Shock. They start their battle, and it's chaotic and exciting, and then Vulpix almost plunges into the mucus, but Electabuzz drops down, hanging onto the Onix Bridge, and rescues Vulpix. Blaine and Yellow are concerned from their little vantage point, and they send Rapidash and Pika against the wall. The noise reveals to Bruno that they are there, but on the other side. And Blaine marvels that not even a dent was made.
It'd be nice if they could get to their friends.
Right? Bruno warns them not to interfere, and Blaine sends Rapidash against the wall again, and so Bruno sends Onix into their room, as he detests interruption from battle, which is what he lives for. Surge and Bill put together that whoever is on the other side of the wall can hear them. Bill isn't sure what to do to help, and then Surge notices that the Machamp is wearing a Machoke belt, and that means he might have recently evolved. He seems to have a plan and asks Bill if he's got any more Pokemon. Bill has one left with some power to it, and then Surge and Bill run while Surge taunts Bruno, who doesn't like that they're running away. They drop some Pokeballs on the run, and then are cornered. Bruno gives no quarter to cowards. But they weren't cowards. They were planning a trap. The Pokeballs open, the ones that they dropped behind, revealing Electrode and Execute. Execute launches egg bombs into the air, and Electrode self-destructs, causing everyone to fall. But Surge was prepared for that as well. He has a few Magnetons create an electric field, catching all their Pokemon and Bill, while Surge hangs from the Magneton. They decide that if Bruno fell into the stuff, he could not have survived.
But he didn't fall into the stuff, did he? He fell on a lower part of the tail or something.
Then we get Chapter 76, Taking a Chance on Chansey. A youngster on Cinnabar Island, probably the one that was battling Blaine at that one scene when Yellow got there, brings a package into Blaine's lab, accompanied by his hunter, which I think is what he used in that battle. He was told to keep an eye on the super nerd, who is in some kind of enclosure in the lab. He opens up the enclosure and sees that the guy is still comatose after weeks. Then the kid looks at the screen, which shows a picture of Red's block of ice that he was trapped in. Super Nerd wakes up and sees the picture, and is stunned and annoyed that the picture is of Red's ice casing and not Red still trapped inside of it. Super Nerd explains he was told to bring some people up there, and while he was there, he took pictures of Red still in the ice, and also found a piece of Red's glove, all of which were used to help him with his disguise. Then he had Marowak bone club the ice, and there wasn't even a crack, so it would be impossible for Red to escape. The kid looks at the pics and realizes the nerd is telling the truth, but then he notices a shadow in the background of at least one of the pictures. So we don't know what that's about, and now we move back to the main part of the story.
So someone must have helped Red escape.
It seems to suggest as much. So we cut to Blue aiding Koga up a flight of steps, and we see Agatha laying where she went down, but then she laughs to herself and declares that those two will never be safe as long as they remain in her maze. We then get a flashback to Professor Oak in a stadium battle, taking out a Tauros with his Kangaskhan's Mega Punch. Oak leaves the stadium with his name being chanted. He fans himself as he heads to his room and runs into a younger Agatha. She is annoyed with Oak and wants him to answer why he left the research group, and he explains that it is because they lost their way and are only interested in making Pokemon do their whims. Agatha tells him he isn't free to leave and sends out Ghastly and Gengar. Oak sends Kanga and Chansey. Kanga faces Gengar, and Chansey is battling Ghastly.
Who's Kanga?
Kangaskhan?
Oh, you just put Kanga short Kangaskhan.
Yeah, sorry. Agatha asks what Oak will do, and he explains that he'll conduct his own research and get a Pokemon encyclopedia together that will help all trainers. Agatha thinks he's wasting his talents. She calls him a fool and claims he'll be dead before even half the encyclopedia is filled. Oak acknowledges that it might be true, but then his children and or grandchildren could carry on the research. Agatha mentions that she won the right to face Oak in the championship that year, and their battle was bitter and lasted 8 hours, but in the end, Oak won. Barely. She plans to make Oak admit that she was right, and that Oak can have that on his tombstone. But first, the grandson and his friend will be in heaven waiting for him, and we see Gengar hiding in their shadows. In Koga's shadows. And Blue's shadows. Chapter 77, Striking Golduck. Like striking gold. Turns out Blue and Koga went in a big old circle, and Koga is losing his strength, and it isn't from blood loss. Something is draining it from him. Sure enough, Gengar is lurking in the shadows. Like, literally inhabiting their shadows, not just hiding in some shadows.
That's funny.
They realize Gengar is hopping inside their shadows, and they pull out a bunch of their Pokemon. Blue uses his Porygon's conversion move to make Porygon a ghost type too, so that physical attacks can't harm it, just like Gengar. Blue is trying to figure out a way to draw the Gengar out. We cut to Brock defending the Pewter City gym with 6 Geodudes. 2 of them guard the gym. 1 guards Kabuto's tank, and the other 3 link together to fight the Machop.
Ooh, fighting against fighting.
Shut up.
Well, you keep going on and on about Bill Sprout, so...
One gets through. One of the Machops get through, I think. Then we're back in Celadon, and something explodes, and a Shelder clamps onto Erica. She thinks they might be trying to get something from her, but she uses Tangela's Bind and Absorb attacks to deal with them. Then someone runs in with news, and she is shocked. We cut to Misty, and she is using Krabby to continue the battle against Gengar, and many buildings are destroyed. She gets a phone call from Erica and learns that the Elite Four's 4th Army has landed in Vermilion, Saffron, Fuchsia, Viridian, and Cinnabar. She needs to get the info to Blaine and the others on Cerise, and sends Starmie to be a guiding light. And then our last chapter of Volume 6, Victim of Venusaur. Bill tries to get Surge into the electric field pod, but he's tired and needs a moment. The one that Surge has been hanging off of, that when he got his magnetons to save them from falling into the acid. Hitmonlee suddenly hits Lieutenant Surge and is being pulled down, and we see a silent Bruno did not fall after all.
I told you.
I'm surprised. I didn't read this chapter, so I didn't know that was coming.
I forgot, but I probably presumed both ways.
Some of the Magneton rescue Surge, but then they're battered up by Hitmonlee, and Surge falls and wonders if this is the end for him. Then we hear Veen, and a vine shoots out and wraps up Surge before he falls into the mucus. Then, while he's being carried, his spoon of destiny starts vibrating excitedly and bends towards something amidst smoke or fog or something, like we can't quite see, because there's like a fog or smoke there.
Actually, when I was reading this chapter and it bent there, I was like, why is this spoon bending? Who is this? Is it friend or foe? Like, I literally didn't know. I was thinking about it.
So what could be in there? Bill peers down, trying to see as well. Then, just barely, we see part of Venusaur's face and the front of a bicycle tire. Bill seems to recognize both and is stunned. Then we get just a glimpse of a person, and it's kind of obvious who it is in the glimpse, but they don't really reveal this yet. Oh, and Yellow and Blaine are looking from their location, and their interest is also being increased. Like, they're also like, hey, what's going on over there? Who's there? Bill says, could it be? And then we have a big splash page, which is where a splash page is a comic book thing where they like cover the whole page with a piece of art or 2 pages. It's called a splash page. And it's a big old splash page of a kid on a bike on the Onyx Bridge with Venusaur by his side. And then a close-up of the kid as well, saying hi to both Bill and Surge like he knows them. And he does, because it is Red! Red rides up the Onyx, puts Hitmonlee to sleep with Venusaur's sweet scent, and has Surge put back onto the bridge as well. Bill asks if it really is him. He says, as far as he knows, he is Red of Pallet Town. Then he holds up the other spoon that is bent as well. So he also got a spoon. Red leans against the wall that is the opposite side of the magic mirror, and Yellow reaches over Bruno's onyx that's been bothering him and Blaine, and touches the mirror in surprise and happiness to see Red. They had almost given up hope. Yellow starts banging on the wall and shouts for Red while Pika is Pika-peeing. They're both so excited to see Red, but Red cannot hear them. Then Blaine notices water sloshing in thanks to Electrode's explosion breaking some walls or something. He tries to warn Yellow, who is still calling out for Red and banging on the mirror. Blaine and Yellow are hit by the torrent of water. Yellow's hat flies into the air, and Yellow's long, blonde ponytail sails free, no longer hidden and restrained by her yellow hat. Blaine is shocked and starts to announce the revelation, but then the rest of the water comes in like a tsunami and washes them away. To be continued. And I just absolutely love the reveal of this chapter. Like, Red's reappearance is so awesome. And then to have the hat fly off and be like, wait, what?
It's so cool. And at the beginning, that really seems like the girl from before. And I thought it a bunch of times. But then
you were like, oh, wait, it's a boy.
No, wait. But then you, who finished chapter 6 already, kept, like, basically trying to mislead me to thinking it's boy. And so I kind of just, like, pushed those thoughts away. Like, oh, okay.
I did not. I just reminded you that the story told you that Yellow was a boy.
That's not all you did.
I'm like, but he's a boy. The story says so.
And if you had said nothing, I would have kept thinking.
I know, but that's because it was a flawed reason that you were thinking that. Because I also thought of it at one point, but I'm like, but it's a boy.
It flashed through my mind a couple times even after you said that.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Maybe it is still a girl. Maybe it is a girl, but something like this is hidden. And
Anyway,
You keep
it's so awesome. And we still don't actually know who this is. We just found out that Yellow's a girl.
Oh, come on. Everybody knows now.
That's not really true. But yes, once I found out, I started piecing the puzzles together very quickly.
Well, after we found it was a girl, I knew.
But that is our episode. Except for, Pokemon cards. So, let's get to that. It smells so good. It really does.
It does.
All right. I think we're both opening Scarlet and Violet Temporal Forces, and I think we have companion Pokemon. Yeah, I think these are like X and Y or variations of X and Y from Pokemon X and Y. I don't know. I don't know enough about these Pokemon, but I have the green one, you have the blue one. All right. I will go first today. I have Metatite, a fighting type Pokemon. Turtonator, a fire type Pokemon. I'll be back. A Hoot Hoot, normal type.
Yeah, the other card was really a hoot hoot.
You're ridiculous. A Beldum. I think last week I got a Matang, which evolves from Beldum. So that's handy. Steel type. Oh, I got some more Buddy Poffin. I got that last week too. Oh, I got another Lycanroc, fighting type. Delcatty evolves from Skitty, normal type. Puchaina, dark type. Ooh. A Keldeo, water type. And this one fascinates me because it was like I had to do a special quest in Pokemon Go to get it, so I'm guessing it's some kind of mythical or legendary type Pokemon.
Well, that's cool. Is it a rare?
It's actually just uncommon in here.
Oh, I have 2 Caldo EXs.
Oh, that's cool. Ooh, and then I got Iron Thorns, which is a future type Pokemon, electric type, and he is obviously the futuristic version of Tyranitar.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yep. It say some of its notable features match those of an object named within a certain expedition journal as Iron Thorns. And then I have a psychic energy.
Fun. Okay, I have Ekans, dark type.
Ooh, Ekans. That fits kind of. So, I mean, they were Arbok, but still.
Turtwig, grass type. It has an ability, Solid Shell. This Pokemon takes 20 less damage from attacks after applying weaknesses and resistance. I like Turtwig. He's cute. Ooh, I got Puchina, dark type.
Oh,
just like you.
Just like me.
Is it the same art?
Yep.
Wigglet, water type. So like the water version of Diglett.
Yep.
Pokemon Tool, Trainer, Heavy Bantam. If the Pokemon this card is attached to has a retreat cost of exactly 4, is in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, move up to 3 basic energy cards from that Pokemon to your bench Pokemon in any way you like.
Seems very specific.
Special energy. Mist energy.
Ooh.
It's like a normal energy because there's a bunch of normal special energies and they have special things. Like this one has, as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides just an energy. Prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon done to the Pokemon this card is attached to. Existing effects are not removed. Damage is not an effect.
Cool.
Ooh, Sandy Shocks. Fighting type. Ancient. I'm pretty sure it's like an ancient type of...
Sandslash?
No.
Oh.
It's really fitting for what we just did. It's him! We, just had a whole episode about this.
Oh, cool. It's Magneton.
Ha! Magneton.
We need to get through all of Scarlet and Violet. There's some cool variation Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. But, it's an old-time Magneton, which is really fitting for our episode. Ooh, my reverse holo is Meta-type, fighting type.
Oh.
Ooh, I've got another reverse holo. Finzin, water type. It's like a dolphin.
Yep.
I have another reverse holo with a pretty edge and, rainbowy bottom. No, it's not a reverse holo, is it? It's like a shiny picture, then, a shiny silver. The Dunsparce evolves from Dunsparce. Normal type. Ability. Runaway draw. Once during your turn, you may draw 3 cards. If you drew any cards in this way, shuffle this Pokemon and all attached cards into your deck. And then I got a fighting type energy.
All right, and then that's our episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please physically like it with clicking things or whatever, and subscribe, rate, review, leave comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can also email us at hunterfieldmanor@gmail.com. We're on Amazon, YouTube at Hunterfield Institute, Spotify, Apple, that kind of stuff. So check us out, follow us, chat with us. It'd be great to hear from you. So next week we will be diving into the first half of Pokemon Adventures Manga Volume 7. And I forget which episodes we'll be covering, but I think we'll be hitting big battle with the Orange League leader in next episode. Because then the episodes of Orange Islands that follow that are kind of like a little epilogue sort of deal. And those will be our last 2 episodes before we take a month or 2 break, as we have a lot going on this summer and we prepare things for our next season, which will start with Gold and Silver and Crystal. That's our plans. Thanks for journeying with us, and we will catch you on the next round. Bye-bye. Part 11. Pool Party. A pale Eevee shot through a large pool of dark water in a large cavern. A pink, round Pokemon with little glowing wings dove after the Eevee, and missed. The Clefairy created a large splash where it hit the water instead. Up above, a Zubat zigzagged through the air as another of the Clefairy chased after it. In the center of all the commotion, a man dreaded water and shouted out commands to his 2 Pokemon. The Eevee scrambled atop the man's head, dripping water all over him, and bounded off right toward the Clefairy that was chasing the Zubat. The Eevee opened its mouth and just managed to clamp down on one of those little wings that emitted the pale glow of moonlight. The Clefairy, its cries usually musical in nature, screeched more like a Zubat and whirled around to try and get the furry Eevee off its back. "Way to go, V!" Midori shouted from his relatively helpless position in the water. "Now, Luckwing, supersonic the other one!" No longer being chased, the Zubat flew in a large loop that shot him back toward the water where the other Clefairy was just popping up. It opened its mouth and let out an awful sound. The Clefairy shook its head and then got ready to shoot up into the air to hit the Zubat, but instead it pushed itself deeper into the water, showing that the supersonic attack had been effective in confusing its opponent. "Great job! Now go help V!" The Zubat soared around to face the Clefairy just as it flung the pale Eevee from its wing. Luckwing dodged the flying Eevee, and then Midori shouted out a command, but at the exact same time, a squeal of delight came from high above, and Violet's voice exclaimed,
I caught
Leech
it!
life!
I caught it!
Unable to hear Midori's commands, the Zubat faltered, allowing the Clefairy to get the upper hand and tackle the bat into the water. Midori felt like he was being pulled in two different directions. He wanted to shout congratulations to Violet, but he was also concerned about Luckwing and V. No, wait! Ah! He started swimming over to where the Clefairy and Zubat went into the water, and V was already making his way back as well. Midori took a deep breath as he prepared to dive down after his Pokemon. Just before his ears were submerged, he heard a voice say,
Gotcha.
It was followed by a surprised shout from Violet that was abruptly cut off, and Midori didn't know if it was because of the water getting into his ears or if something terrible had just happened to the girl. The water was dark, and there really wasn't any way Midori could see anything. Fortunately, the wings of the Clefairy still glowed, and so he just aimed for that and hoped nothing else showed up down there. Swimming as hard as he could, he got closer and closer, and then grabbed hold tight of the Clefairy. The Clefairy wriggled in surprise and then swam away as fast as it could back toward the surface, and there was no sign of Luckwing. Then something moved past him rapidly in the water, and he let out a lot of air in surprise. He had to surface quickly, and he wasn't sure he could make it in time. Something went by him again, and this time he felt a tentacle-like appendage wrap around his wrist and start pulling. Midori started to fight it until he realized it was pulling him toward the surface. He emerged and breathed in hard, getting some water drops in, causing him to erupt into a violent coughing fit. Once he stopped, he was already thinking about diving back down to rescue his Zubat when it screeched out at him and flew by his head. Luckwing, you're okay. V cried out from beside Midori, treading water and looking quite proud of itself. You get him? The Eevee gave a sound that seemed like a confirmation. Then what was that Clefairy I grabbed? Oh, that must have been the confused one, Midori said. It was then that Midori realized there was a horsey floating nearby as well, and he knew it must be Mizu, who had probably been the one to help him back up to the surface. But something, or someone, was missing. Where's Violet? Mizu gave a series of cries and looked worriedly back up the cliff. Something had happened to her, and there was no way they were going to be able to climb that cliff. What had happened to Violet? And who was the other voice Midori had heard? Then there was a loud crack, and the cliff began to rise. To be continued.